All right, welcome everybody to episode 3 of the Inclusion Conversation. Today we're going to talk about gender equality. What if it all started with a we? And we're going to meet our guest speakers very, very soon. Before we do that, I just let you know that we are recording. So if you're comfortable to keep your cameras on, that's great. Otherwise, feel free to turn them off. I just want to introduce myself. So my name is Solène Anglaret. I'm the host of the Inclusion Conversation, founder of Be Beyond Borders, and author of 4 books all about identity, belonging, and a sense of home. I'm delighted to welcome you to this episode, and I will just share with you a little bit about how it's going to run for the next hour. So first, we're going to hear from our guest speakers, Amber and Hazel, who are the co-founders of PEEQUAL. And I can't wait to ask them a lot of the questions that I've prepared. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. That's going to be the first 20 or so minutes. Then for 10 minutes, we're going to answer your questions from the chat. And then after the first half hour, we're going to stop the recording and offline, off the record, have a genuine, candid conversation about the topic. So really looking forward to that. Honestly, that's usually my favorite bit, but we don't record it, so that's why people need to come live to the next one. So a few kind of inclusion conversation etiquette principles that I remind everyone every time. So we are recording, like I said, cameras on if you're comfortable, that's awesome. Subtitles are enabled, so you can just go to the subtitles button at the bottom of your screen and enable them if you need them at any point. Use the chat if you want to react, just say hello, just have a chat with each other. Any comments, any immediate reactions or questions, just pop them in. In terms of mindset, really just an open mind. You know, we're here to learn, we're here to think about things maybe slightly differently than before, and we're also here to be kind to each other. And to accompany each other on this journey. So that's a little bit about setting the scene around today's hour. And if you need a break, there's no break scheduled, but feel free to go. You don't have to raise your hand. And this is very topical, actually. We're going to talk about the human needs. So there you go. If you need a break, just take it. So I am joined today by Hazel and Amber, who are the co-founders of PEEQUAL, just like I said before. So Hazel and Amber, welcome. And please tell us a little bit more about you and about PEEQUAL.
Cool. I can kick things off. Hello, everyone. My name's Hazel and this is Amber. And yet together we co-founded PEEQUAL, basically to solve our own problem. We were sick and tired of waiting in long female toilet queues, especially at festivals. And we thought, surely there's a better way. We actually met 5 years ago. We both studied at Bristol University. I studied physics with innovation and Amber anthropology with innovation. So within the innovation side of the course, for our master's year, we were tasked with solving a real world problem. And straight away, we knew what we wanted to do. Like personally, I wanted to create something physical, but I was so interested around the fact that nothing had been built in this space before. And why not? Why was there this taboo around female urination? And yeah, it all started with us with the problem. We had no idea what the solution was going to be. It was all about the problem of female toilet queues. I guess to give a bit more context as well, we'd spend our university summers working at festivals. So even though female toilet queues are everywhere, they are so bad at festivals. So I'd work in catering, and in my break, I'd have to choose between going to the loo or getting food because the queues were 30 minutes long. I'd miss out on my favorite acts. And I think your experience within welfare, like these female toilet queues led to really like bad effects.
Yeah, like reduced safety at events, one of them. And so what we found as we sort of did a deep dive into like the problems that arose just from having women having unequal access to the same facilities as men, was like we need a solution. So when we started speaking to women, we went and stood in queues outside pubs. This was pre-COVID. We asked our friends at house parties, we asked people online, and we got lots of feedback. And what we found was that there was such a demand for something to be created. And so we stepped into that demand and we created a women's urinal. So yeah, this PEEQUAL is the UK's first standalone women's urinal. It is really efficient, and it's really hygienic, it's really sustainable. So we're really excited about hitting festival season this year. I guess we can talk more about that with Celine's questions later on.
Yeah,
that's a quick rundown, I guess.
Yeah, I guess because it started at university as well, we played the student card a lot. So we managed to be like, we email everyone. We were like, we're to the head of Glastonbury. We're like, we're students. Could you help us with the design? So we spoke to women, but there were so many different people we needed to speak to with our stakeholders. So the supply chain, the logistics people, our customers, our event organizers, and they're not, it's not the women. So we needed to talk to everyone involved. And it all started with a conversation. And that's what's led to PEEQUAL today.
I love that. It all started with a conversation. That's exactly what we're doing here today. So how topical. It's amazing. And also how you say like, oh, we were at uni and it was straight away, we knew what problem we wanted to solve. I have to be honest, I never really thought that much about it until I met both of you, actually. So yeah, it's going to be wonderful to hear a little bit more about it. And so I think the first question that everyone I've spoken to about this since asked me is, Solène, how does it actually work? How does a woman uses a urinal? So yeah, can you tell us a little bit, maybe Amber, how it works and also how it felt the first time you used your own products?
Yeah, of course. It's also the question we get asked all the time as well. And it's a fair enough question because something like this hasn't existed before. So it's like, how does it work? So there's no funnels involved, it's a standalone structure. So you don't have to carry anything around with you in your bag, which is unhygienic. You go up to it like a male urinal and you'd step into it to use. So when you go into it, you walk around this sort of like overlapping screen, so you're completely private. And then it's simply like a squat style. It's an adaptation of like an Asian squat style toilet to reduce splashback and to be as comfortable as possible for as many heights and squat styles as possible. Believe it or not, we did our research on different squat styles. We got the high squat, low squat, wide squat, everything. So yeah, what we found in our research is that splashback is something people do not want, obviously. So we've made a real effort with like complex curves, and you really delved into the research about that.
I got obsessed with splashback and how to minimize it. Physicists in the Netherlands have developed like a pea black hole. It's all about dissipating the energy so it doesn't splash back up at you.
Yeah. So it's like, we describe it to women as like if you're going go for a wild wee, if you go for a walk, maybe a walk across hills, or what's the word, hill walking, you may go do a V, you may go for a wild wee, and that's exactly what is based on. But you don't have to touch anything, it's really quick. You don't have to have any of those time wasters, which basically speeds up the efficiency of the use. So yeah, that's it. I was going
to say the extra design features. So it is just like pop a squat as if you were to wild wee, but in a really safe and hygienic place. But we've made squatting easier. So for this insight actually came from Amber's mum. So when you squat down, your heels come off the ground. So it leads to the feeling of instability. So we now have a slightly sloped floor, which means you feel more sturdy when you squat down. We've also chatting to women at Valley Fest. There was way more mums in the crowd, and they were like, I need a bar in front to help pull me back up. So we immediately, acted on that feedback and implemented it into the design. Yeah, that was just some extra design features. And yeah, like Amber said, you are completely private from the waist down, but your head pops out the top.
You can wave at each other. Hello.
Yeah,
make friends.
Yeah. And we've recently,
sorry, we're on in this booth and the lights go out.
Yeah, we recently added in like a light sensor as well, so like you can tell if someone's in the wedge or not if they're shorter. So like when you squat, your head would probably be seen maybe that much above as an average height of a woman. So we basically made sure that you won't be walked in on, or you can tell what wedge is free, what wedge is,
say if it's like dusk or in the nighttime.
And it's changed a lot, right? Because I remember that you told me, Hazel, that the first prototype you were basically building by yourself and with help from friends and moms and
yeah, we have got a lot of stories on that. So Amber actually had to learn to weld in order to make the structure. My mum and I sewed all the walls of one of the prototypes because loads of manufacturers couldn't commit to the same timescales as we were part of, or perhaps they didn't take us too seriously as two young women. That's a whole side note. But yeah, so we were like, right, we are so relentless to make this happen. We just built it ourselves. Yeah, the first one was very dodgy. That was using scrap wood and metal found in Amber's dad's hedge.
Yeah.
And that was what the BBC still use that as the photo when they ever write about us.
Yeah.
So we've developed since then.
Yeah. It's definitely, we've definitely embodied sort of scrappy prototyping and design, and sort of had to be okay with showing a product that's not yet finished just to get feedback on it. And I think we try and adopt that in everything that we do now, because it gives so much insight. So like from using those scrappy out of the hedge materials, we were able to reach people from across the world because we were able to have publicity that sort of struck a chord for so many people, and that just snowballed outwards. But at the same time, we learned so many design features that we needed to include as well. So it's anyone on the call worried about releasing something that maybe isn't ready, just do it, just get feedback.
Nice.
Yeah,
just do it, make sure it's safe and then do it. Brilliant. And what about the name? Because the name PEEQUAL I find so catchy, and I know there's a story behind how that came about. So Hazel, tell us a bit more about that.
Thank you so much, because that was a very long process. We actually were originally called Satis. So Satis was the ancient Egyptian goddess of flooding, and she was also a war symbol. And there was a lot of like background, like, ooh, this is really cool, and this is what she stands for, and we like that she, she's the goddess of flooding. That's hilarious, but also a warrior, and she's a woman. But then it's, that's only if you know that. And actually the reason we had to change away from Satis is because we see ourselves as a global brand, and actually there's a Japanese smart toilet called Satis that talks to you. So we were like, right, scrap that. How do we communicate exactly what we do? Because we're obsessed with equality, equity, and also not shying. We didn't want to shy away from what we do. We didn't want to make it ultra feminine. We wanted to embrace womanhood. And so we think that, a lot of work went into it, and we settled with PEEQUAL because we really do. We want to pioneer peer equality. And our vision is actually to go beyond just providing for women, but make safe, hygienic, sustainable places for everyone to feel comfortable to pee. But this is into our future in the next few years.
And also on that note, our competitors, we've got some Danish competitors, and we have some French competitors, and they're named like Madame P or La P, and it's all quite like soft and sort of similar. So what we wanted was something to stand out. So we didn't want to end in P or we or he or whatever. So PEEQUAL definitely stands out against our competitors. So there's a lot of thought went into how we'd be spoken and sort of seen.
We do see ourselves as a bit of a movement. We are more than just a product, and PEEQUAL we thought encompassed that.
Yeah, well done. I mean, it sounds like it took a lot of thinking, and I think it's a really memorable name. And I want to explore that a little bit more in terms of the P equality. So, because at first, I think a lot of people joining this call, and myself included, when you come across the product, you think, hang on, what does P have to do with equality? And you've started mentioning it. But yeah, Amber, if you can tell us a bit more, because there's a story that you shared with me from childhood and the impact of that really resonated.
Yeah, of course. So when we started out on this, we really did lots of research, academic research, because it was actually for our dissertation. And so when we did all this research, we were finding that there is an equal access to facilities for women across the board, not because it's been skewed that way, because as we've developed as a society, men were educated first, and so men naturally then built the environments that we exist in today. So even though we have progressed as a society, we're still existing in these buildings that are built without that female perspective, without the need that goes into it. So we are existing in like a normalized inequality. So when you look at a male bathroom compared to a female bathroom, they're the same size. Actually, women's needs, you find that women have more caregiving duties. women need to go to the toilet more because of
we have smaller bladders.
We have smaller bladders, and also like sanitary reasons. If you're on your period, you need to go more. So there are a lot more reasons why we need more facilities. But what we're finding now is that men have urinals and men have toilets as well, and you can fit 10 to 1, I think, in the same space. So that's like in fixed sites. But then, you know, at events or festivals, we have male urinals and then we have portable toilets. And so men have the lovely option of going to the urinals if they just need a wee, whereas women have to go through the portable toilets. And that's where that huge queue builds up, because they don't have that option that 90% of the women just need a wee, but they have to queue up alongside all the men as well. So it's just unequal access to facilities. But alongside that, what we really want to tackle is our perception of how we see the importance of time. You know, like if we were saying to Celine before this call, if you had 2 children and one was a girl, one was a boy, and they both went to the toilet at the same time, the boy would come back in a matter of minutes and the girl would be standing there waiting for another 15 minutes. And we're slowly teaching young girls to believe that their time is less important. You know, we're actually, not intentionally, but from the structures that we have around us, allowing women to think that way. And it's become normalized. And like Celine said, she hasn't even thought about this until we've broached the topic. And that's how it's so ingrained in society. But it actually is quite a huge fundamental change and shift that needs to happen. And so we're hoping that with PEEQUAL, with this extra facility, we'll be able to slowly make a tangible difference in the world.
Yeah, we kind of dug deeper. Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah.
And it actually, there's a lack of toilet facilities in places of power in education. So, for example, Yale University didn't admit women for ages on the basis that they had no female toilet facilities. For example, in the Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump debate, Hillary Clinton was late back to the debate because she had to go further to the toilet because there wasn't one near the debate room. And she came back late to the debate and was on the back foot. It just, because it's one of the most basic of bodily functions. Yeah, men's, you know, things are changed if it affects a man. I have one funny story of a Monty Python concert. So there was loads of old men who had gone to the theatre to watch this Monty Python concert, and they extended the theatre interval to make sure the men could pee and get a drink, because loads of men were queuing to wee. They had to sit down to wee or whatever. So it took longer, and they enacted the change to change the interval time, whereas a woman going to the theatre would have to choose between getting a pint or going to wee, or being late back to the show. It's, I don't know, it's just so ingrained everywhere you look.
Yeah, but I guess as a brand, we definitely want to sort of see men as allies. Like we see men as so important to this cause. Like we're not like bashing men at all. We just acknowledge that this is the truth in this way society has developed. And so, you know, to make this shift, we want men as allies. We want men on our side to help champion this change. So we're no by any means like saying, men, you're terrible. It's just saying that this needs tackling and we need your help to do it.
Yeah, it's not like we're replacing men's urinals by women's urinals. We're just creating more urinals so everybody can enjoy the concert and the event and all the things that they want to do in life. And yeah, I think it's really important to underline these kind of hidden sexism or hidden disadvantages that we've completely integrated in our brains as normal, as not something that's, you know, really that big of a deal. But when you put it like this all together, it's incredible. It's really eye-opening. So thank you for sharing that with us. And we have a couple of men on the call, so we definitely want you as allies. Thank you for joining the conversation. And I'd love to keep going on that topic of gender equality and kind of take a broader lens into how innovation can contribute towards gender equality. We've seen a lot in the media in the UK recently with International Women's Day, and there was this brilliant gender pay gap bot. I think it might have been international actually, but definitely we talked a lot about it in the UK. So basically, for those who haven't seen it, what happened was any company that posted with the hashtag International Women's Day 2022, then this bot, automatic AI smart bot, would directly reply with posting their gender pay gap. And often you would see that, you know, it was significant for most of these companies. So it was basically pointing out that, yeah, it's all well and good organizing International Women's Day event, talking about gender equality and all these things. But when it comes down to it, when it comes to the money, when it comes to access to bathroom, when it comes to all these tangible changes, are they getting, you know, made? And if not, then why not? So what are your thoughts in terms of what innovation, what's the role that innovative products and services can play in changing that?
Yeah, it's vital. And I think it all comes from creating, I'm going back to the conversations again, but during our research, we realized that there were like hundreds of innovations to help men pee, and they already have a biological advantage. And we kind of saw that the taboo associated around women's health and the lack of conversations almost meant there was no innovation. And now all those barriers is we really feel so excited that we're on the cusp of this. We're joining the wave of like femtech and companies like LV who are breaking down these barriers, creating these conversations, which means the problems that people talk about can get solved. So we see ourselves as part of the innovation wave that's happening right now around female health and that kind of space.
And part of being innovative is having multiple people speak into a problem. So like not just having one like demographic or one person, the person of color in this group. It's like properly involving everybody in the conversation and hearing from so many different viewpoints to then create a solution that is for everyone. And that is innovative, because up till now we haven't done this. You know, we're only just starting to do this as a society. So yeah, it's very exciting to sort of see how innovation is going to help change things for the better. Yeah,
it's interesting how it kind of feeds each other. You need innovation to increase diversity, increase inclusion, and diversity and inclusion needs innovation to. It really kind of feeds completely into one another. So hopefully we're getting the mix right, and all of this can help change, accelerate. So yeah, that's wonderful. And you touched on the taboos, so I want to bounce on that. What are some of the taboos that you want to address around women peeing, around gender equality, around all of that, all of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think firstly there's the taboo around the fact that, you know, females, like we pee, we have bodily functions, and that's okay to talk about. I definitely think we've made, as a society, have made really good progress, and especially in England, and I can't really comment too much on other cultures, but this disassociation, to be ladylike, you kind of disassociate from your bodily functions. It's the ladies' room. We don't talk about having a wee or a period. So it's that I want to break down those barriers and make it culturally normal to talk about this, because like I just said, like from that creates the innovation and the change.
Yeah, it's language that we're using is meaning that we're distancing women from bodily functions and their needs. So we're not listening to their needs. So it's like, yeah, conversation. But also when we were doing research, we found that women are so tightly bound to being sexualized that we can't possibly see women doing something that's so bodily functional
and
unsexy, that we remove ourselves from it, and women are removed from having natural bodily functions that are unsexy. So that was something that like hit me hard. I was like, wow, we're so ingrained in sexualizing women nowadays that it's not possible to even address simple bodily functions. So that's definitely something we want to remove and sort of make more normalized, and champion women's bodies and champion the differences that we have.
I think that's one of the reasons why we're so brightly colored. We're not hiding away. We want to create this conversation. We're going to have people pioneers on the ground. So a team of women to help champion other women of how to use it, also start conversations around it. and rethink the toilet experience, because portable toilets are just,
No one likes them.
no one likes them. They really don't work. They're designed however many years ago, and it's kind of really cool that we're part of this new innovation in the toilet area.
Yeah, I love the colors. Everyone, if you haven't been on the PEEQUAL website, go have a look. It's really bright and yeah, really engaging. And obviously you're, you know, very passionate and very, I think, open about, you know, just like you said, breaking the taboos. How does that go down in investor meetings, which I'm assuming are mainly with men, as often is the case? Yeah, how does that play out? I just want to be a fly on the wall and find out. So tell us.
Yeah,
It's been a real mixed bag. I think it was definitely learning progress.
a learning process.
A learning process. You know, at the beginning, we didn't realize how much of a taboo it was, you know, so we started talking about it and actually wouldn't get very good responses back. So it was almost like investor world is such a game anyway, but we had to really play a game of like hooking them with humor and actually like the UK toilet jokes and sort of making them laugh through the uncomfortableness. And then we would hit them with like the hard facts of how much change this would make, how much revenue it would make for the events, how much time women would have back, all these sort of like numbers that we would be able to hit them with once they were hooked with the humor, which, you know, it is sad that we have to do that, but that is just the world that we're living in. Ideally, we wouldn't have to do that, but we have to, unfortunately. We have had really good results though from some people, like instantly get it, you know, either they've got a wife and 3 girls, you know, at home, and they've just seen the need or had to wait outside the toilets for them all their lives, you know, have seen the problem, have actually been like, yeah, this needs solving, and they've backed us from the start, you know. So I think you gauge a vibe of an investor as soon as you talk about women's urinals, and yeah, you're pretty good at gauging who was where.
And it was a learning process, and there were, you know, there were so many people that laughed us out of the room, that didn't take us seriously, that didn't understand the problem. It was quite hard to begin with, but then we did develop this thick skin. We developed this core business case that was not laughable. You know, we have such a mission and vision and values behind us, but it makes sense financially as well. Like with our revenue models and recurrent revenue streams, it makes perfect sense financially as well. So we kind of had to build an even stronger investment case. So yeah, by the time we reached due diligence phases with the British Design Fund, they actually said this was the most thought through financial spreadsheet that, because we were used to having everything
to prove
back
ourselves.
To us.
Yeah, I think like on that investor front, what we like sharing is that comparing ourselves to our male sort of startup founders, what we found investors were doing, they were asking men for like, asking questions like how are you going to achieve such growth, or what's your vision for the future? Whereas for us, it would be like, what would you do if it failed in the first year? Or like, how would you, what if we didn't, you know, it was all negative sort of boundaries and blocks in the way instead of high thinking. And that was just, I don't know why, it's just like an inequality.
I don't think.
They're not being like
malicious,
intentionally unequal, but that is what happens. And so that is then lending itself to the fact that only 1% of VC funding goes to all women founders, and it doesn't encourage young entrepreneurs to pursue investment, because why start when you're so on the back foot anyway, and you're not going to be listened to.
Which is why we're now helping other female founders, because it's investment sometimes shrouded in loads of unnecessary language that is actually quite simple once you know, but it can feel daunting. So yeah, we are open to any conversations with other female founders to demystify any investment lingo.
I guess we should say that we did raise money. We raised $250,000, which we invested in team, manufacturing, and growth of our business. But yeah, we were invested by 4 angel investors, so individuals of high net worth, and 1 fund. And so these people really believe in us, and we have a good relationship with them, and they sort of add credibility to us and money ultimately. Yeah.
We both are nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations. That's absolutely amazing. And yeah, can't wait to see. I mean, I already saw, we were talking earlier about your new hires, which is really exciting. And you've got also great festivals coming up. So I think we can talk about this a little bit more in the next kind of 30 minutes of the conversation. But for this more formal part, so we're going to end very shortly. I just want to point out one thing that you said, which really resonated around the different questions that women and men tend to get asked. Actually, this morning, my sister shared with our family group a video about a research that was done in France related to the media and journalists asking different questions from leaders, men and women in interviews. And what they did is they basically did an analysis of all these thousands of interviews and then picked out the questions that only women got asked, like, you know, how do you balance your family and, you know, the classic one, or things around, you know, it was a big day for you when you got announced as a new CEO. What were you wearing that day? And so what they did is they asked those questions to men, CEOs and leaders without telling them what they were doing. And you can see the men, they're like,
Yeah.
I was wearing my
Yeah.
briefcase. You know, it's like they don't know, they just completely like blank, they have no idea. You know, and it's like, oh, so this imposter syndrome, how do you navigate that? And you see the man is like, the what, sorry, what did you call that? It's just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
So maybe it's worth doing something around that when you're rolling out the toilets. And actually, by the way, everyone, if you haven't done, I already told you to do it, but if you haven't done it yet, go on the PEEQUAL website. There's an amazing video about women and non-binary people trying the PEEQUAL loose urinals and giving feedback. And especially one woman coming out and saying, I beat my partner to the toilets for the first time ever. And I think that is absolutely priceless. So yeah, I just want to say thank you so much. And I'll just share very quickly for those who are watching the recording. I just have very quick announcement for the next episode. So let me just share with you. So this is for everyone watching the recording. So thank you very much for taking the time to watch our episode 3 of the Inclusion Conversation. You can join our next episodes live and enjoy the full session. So we've got Thursday, 28th of April coming up around deaf awareness to Hear for Life, Listen with Care. And then we've got 26th of May, which is coming up around borderline personality awareness, breaking the stigma. You can also follow us on Instagram at Beyond Borders, check our website and subscribe to the newsletter if you'd like to, and also the YouTube channel where you can watch episode 1, episode 2, and very soon this episode 3. So to everyone watching the recording, massive thank you, and everyone who is here, just stay with us. We will carry on.